In this tutorial we are going to recreate this 3D reel. Creating that will help you understand what you should pay attention to when editing videos in this style. The video was originally created by Bart, so you can go check out his Instagram. Before we get into that, there is a special event happening in Leverage Editor community. On April 28th there will be a live workshop hosted by Brett. In this workshop he will be laying out the exact steps that made him build a 30k per month video editing agency. Now whether you are a video editor that just wants to land a high paying job, or you also want to create your own editing agency, this workshop is for you. By joining the community you will also get access to the program where we'll help you to go from being an average editor to advanced editor, and you will be able to do all of the most popular styles like Vox, Danco or Imangazi. So if you want to know the secrets of earning big money in video editing and you want to become a Leverage editor, then join the program and the community, link is in the description. And with that, let's get into the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing to do in After Effects is to obviously create a new composition in a vertical format. I will call this composition 3D reel, and the duration for now doesn't matter. Click OK. And at the start what we'll do is move this panel to the right. So by dragging it here, you can move it right there to the right and adjust everything else that is here. And this way it will be just much easier to see what is happening on the screen. Now recreating this video will be using a lot of assets, so I already imported these assets here. As you can see, they are also segregated. And for now I will just import the original video to see how it looks. And actually I will also trim the composition length here, so click N here, right click here and select Trim Comp to Work Area. And let's see how it originally looks. Okay, so we'll recreate everything except for the first few frames, so the Bart is here on the screen. So the first scene is really this dollar rotating with the background and the text. So I will also put the start of the original video, I think, maybe here. So let's start. So right click here, create a new solid, change the color to black. Click OK. Right click here again, create a new camera. It can be just a 2-node camera and the settings can stay at default. Now create a new null object and parent link this camera to this null object by using this pick whip. Now let's set the start on all of these layers to this moment. Select all of the layers and put them here at the start. And actually here we can trim the composition again. So go to the end, click N, right click here and Trim Comp to Work Area. Okay, using the combination of null and camera we'll be able to control the 3D scene, but also put this null in 3D by checking this box and put this solid in 3D by checking this box. Now import the first asset from the asset folder, and that will be in the textures, and it's called dotted grain overlay, and put it above the black solid. And this is what I will be using as a dots in the background, because this style, so 3D reel style, is characteristic for actually putting some random overlays and sometimes even random images. So it's really hard to find exactly the same images. And as you saw at the start, my reel is not exactly the same as the original reel, but I will show you all of the techniques and all of the animations that you need to know to create this type of edit. Okay, but now when we play this, you can see that the dots are very slow. So select this layer and click Ctrl Alt and T, and this way you just keyframe the time remapping, and you also enabled that. When we right click on this layer, you can see under time we enabled time remapping. Okay, go to composition settings and actually make this composition back to, let's say, 2 minutes and 3 seconds. And for now, let's stay like that, because some of the assets that we'll import will be longer. Now go to the second keyframe on the time remap, right click that and select toggle hold keyframe and move this keyframe closer. I would say somewhere here. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, now it's much faster. And this is what we wanted. Okay, now check this box to put this layer in 3D and parent link it with the black background. I will rename this layer to black background, and now import another asset, and that will be our dollar. Put it above this background. Now apply an effect tint to this dollar, because it will just make it so that it's black and white. Okay, and now we'll create the two texts, so the first and on the internet, I think. Yeah, so right click here, create a new text and type the first. And my font is already set to the font that I will be using here, but I will show you that. The font that I'm using is Europe Grotesque SH, and the version is medium italic. So now put the anchor point of that in the middle by using a shortcut Ctrl Alt and Home. Now as you can see, the anchor point moved from the bottom left to the middle, and now using the align panel right there, set it to the middle. Okay, now duplicate this layer, click P and change the position, put it lower, like here, and type on the internet. Now Ctrl-Alt-Home again to put the anchor point in the middle, and align to put this layer in the middle. Okay, now select both of these layers and put them below the camera and the null object. And check this box here to put them in 3D. Now we'll want to bend them because you can see in the original video, they are bended, they are not straight. So to do that, select one of these layers, go to Pen tool and draw a line like that. Of course, you will be able to change it later if you don't like the path. Now go to the drop down of this text layer, go to text, go to path options, and next to the path you have this drop down and select mask one. This way, as you can see, the text is aligned to the path that we just created. And by using the first margin, we can change the text position on this line, but actually let's move it like that. And the great thing is, as you can see, we can modify it right now. Okay, this is pretty good, but I will only put it later on the path, like here, let's say. And now do the same on the second text layer. Now also I will change the position, put it lower. Okay, I don't think this is actually the font that I used. And the font that I used was Montserrat Black Italic. Yeah, this was the font. Let's also change it here, Montserrat Black Italic. And now let's adjust the text position on the path, like that. On the second one also. Okay, and I'll change the path a little here. Something like this, I would say. Also the position a little. Okay, this is good. So now we can start animating the dollar bill. So first of all, put this dollar in 3D space by checking this box. So let's solo the original layer by checking this box here. This dot means that this layer is soloed, so we only see this layer. At the start, it should be kind of vertical, the dollar bill. And let's go to the moment where it's fully animated. So I would say here is the final position of the dollar. So let's mark this moment by using a shortcut Shift+4. You can see we created a mark here. Okay, hide this layer. And at the start, go to the dollar and open rotation. And by clicking Shift and then clicking P and S, you can also add other parameters to the selection. Now let's keyframe all of that. So all of the rotation and position, and go to our mark and keyframe it again. At the mark, the values are already good. So at the start, we have to change them. So we'll put this dollar away from the viewer by changing the Z position. Oh, and also we have to change the Z position on the background. So go right there. You can see one view and enable two views. Right now, select black background layer that we created. And by using the top view, you can adjust the Z position from there. But then you can see on the right screen, this is the screen that will get rendered, that we have black edges. And to change that, we'll just increase the scale of that. So select this layer, click S, and increase the scale like that. And maybe even put it further away from the viewer. And now change the scale so that it covers the screen, but not too much, not like that, of course. So 123 I think is pretty good. Okay, now we can go to one view again. So here change to one view, and we can animate the dollar. So by selecting the layer and clicking U, it shows you all of the used keyframes. Okay, and at the start, just put it further away from the viewer like that. Now rotate it on the Z axis. We can change the scale to something like 80 or even 70 and rotate it on the Y axis also. And also we can rotate it on the X axis a little. Okay, I think this is pretty good. Let's see. Okay, this is good, but as you can see during the transition, the dollar is also going inside of the background, and this is because background is too close to the viewer. So again, let's go to black background layer and change the Z position, put it further away from the viewer. Now open the scale on that by clicking S and increase it again. Let's see right now. Yeah, now it's good. So now we can smooth these keyframes. So select all of them and click F9. Click right there to go to graph editor. And with this graph, you can change the speed of the animation. So for example, you can set it so that at the start it's much faster. And you do that by using these yellow handles. So select the second set of keyframes and move it like that. Now what this graph does is that it makes it so that at the start, at the point of this heel, it's much faster, and then at the end it's much slower, the animation. Let's see how it looks. You can see it looks much better. And it's actually already good, we don't have to do anything else. So now we can animate the text. Okay, so you can see in the original video, the animation of the text is basically just it getting bigger and going letter by letter. Okay, I think I will also decrease the scale of this dollar a little, to 60 maybe. Just a quick adjustment. And we'll get the animation on the letters by using a free plugin that is called Animation Composer. You will have the link to that in the description. and here you will go to starter presets, transitions, text layers, animate characters, and we'll use this preset, so overshoot scale characters. So select the layer the first, select this preset, choose the bottom and click in. This way right now you can see it's animated, but we also want to be able to control this animation. You can see it also created this mark here, so the mark when this animation is fully finished. And now when you select this layer you can see the preset menu, and we'll just play with that a little. So what I will change is I will just set the frequency to 0, because as you can see right now I also increased the frequency to 200 to show you what the frequency does. So basically it just makes the letters bounce, and we don't want that, so set the frequency to 0. And what we can also do is shift transition, click the left arrow, and this way you make the transition happen faster. You can also do that by moving this point. So the text the first should be animated pretty quickly. I think somewhere here it should be already animated, so move this point right there. Let's see. Yeah, now it's really fast. And right now the second text should start being animated, I would say somewhere here. So set the start of this layer to this point by dragging the start of it and moving like that. And now again apply the same preset and do the same here. So select this layer and change the frequency to 0. Let's solo the original layer and let's see where the next transition starts. So the letters are fully animated right here, I would say, or maybe on our mark that we already created. So move this point right there. And also we already soloed the original layer, so let's see when the next transition happens. So it starts happening here, but our transition will not look exactly the same because I couldn't find exactly this asset. So this film burn that Bart used. So what I will use is just different film burn. So here, let's mark this point. Shift +5, you can see the mark here, and let's see if we put it later, the point. No, put it here. Okay, I think this point can be here. Yeah, it's pretty good. And also what we have to do is animate the camera, because in the original video you can see that the camera is constantly zooming in. So open the position on this null object by clicking P, keyframe it here, go like after the 5 mark that we created, keyframe it here and change the Z position to put it closer to the viewer. Like that, I would say. And this way the whole composition is moving to the viewer. Okay, there is one more thing, as you can see. At the start of this video, the screen is white, and it is because the Bart is transitioning from him to the first scene, and we don't have the scene of him talking or of me talking, so we'll just add this transition at the start. So I will create this by using a light leak that is in the asset folder. Import it here, put it at the very top. Let's unsolo the original layer, select it and click R to open the rotation and rotate it 90 degrees. Let's see. Okay, this is how it looks, but it's way too long. So click Ctrl Alt and T to open the time remap. Right click on this keyframe and toggle hold keyframe and move it closer like here. And then let's cut this layer here. And let's see right now. Also what we can do is make it start like 2 frames later, so move the start 2 frames later and move it to the start. And right now with this layer selected, go to toggle switches modes right there and change the mode here to screen. Let's see right now. Yeah, as you can see now we have this flash at the start, and that's pretty good. So that's it. Now we can start creating the transition to the next screen. Let's see in the original video. Okay, you can see during the transition, there is also this widescreen moment that lasts like 3 frames. So let's mark the moment of the widescreen. It's here, Shift +6. So at this moment, the transition should start. So import another thing from the asset folder, and this will be, it's called light or fire leaks. Now import it to the timeline. Put it at the very top, because actually transitions we can create at the very top. We don't have to create them in 3D space. So we don't have to put them below the camera. Now just find a good light leak, and I think it could be this one. Click R and rotate it 90 degrees. Let's see, we want the light leak that will cover almost the whole screen. So this one is pretty good, I would say. So right there is the start of this light leak, so put the start here. Go at the end of this light leak, so it's not visible on the screen right there. And put the end to this point, set the end to this point. Now put the start of this layer at the moment that we marked as a start of the transition. Change the mode of that to screen again. Let's see. Okay, pretty good, but what we can actually do is increase the scale. So select this layer, click S, and increase the scale, and also move it a little down, like that. This way it will cover the whole screen. Okay, and at the moment of the widescreen that we marked as 6, right click here, go to New, create a solid, change the color of the solid to white, put the start of the solid here, and put this solid behind the camera, like that. Go to toggle switches modes and enable the 3D on this layer. Now let's see how it looks. Okay, yeah, it's perfectly, you can see switching to the widescreen. But what you will also notice in the video is that first of all, there is this kinda another texture. On the right you can see white lines, so I couldn't find that, but we'll use another texture. And also there is vignette applied to this layer, so let's unsolo that. And with the white solid selected, search for effect CC vignette, apply it, and let's change the amount to maybe 200. Okay, and what we should also do, because you can see that the transition light leak is above the white screen, so we can cut the start of this light leak to this point right there. And also vignette is way too strong, so put it at 130. I would say this, so 147 looks pretty good. Let's see. Okay, and now we can put another texture on that is already imported here, and it's called glitch overlay. Put it at the very top, change the rotation on that to 90 and increase the scale. And this is just an overlay with a glitch effect, so just find a good glitch transition. I would say this looks pretty good. Starting from there, set the start of it here, move a couple frames later, and here it is finished. So delete the rest and put it here. And also, of course, go to toggle switches modes and change the mode of that to screen. This way we just combine two effects. Now small adjustments, so the glitch effect will actually decrease the opacity of that. So with this layer selected, click T, this way you open opacity, and let's set it to 50% maybe. And what we'll also do is decrease the opacity on the white dots at the start. So go to this layer, open the opacity by clicking T, and let's lower that to 60% maybe, or maybe even 50%. Let's see. Looks like Houston Call type of edit. Let's go to the original layer, solo that, and let's see where is the first frame that the white screen is not here. So it's this frame. We can mark that, Shift+6 actually. We can also extend the glitch effect to this moment. And then we should start creating the second screen. So this dollar, the black background, and the triangle particles flying everywhere. Let's see how the transition looks. Okay, it's pretty good, but I would still decrease the opacity on the glitch. Let's set it to 30 even. Go to the null object that controls the camera, click U, and let's move this keyframe one frame later. So the screen is just zooming throughout the whole first scene basically. Okay, and one thing that we can also adjust at the start is that these text layers don't have to be in 3D. So we can disable that. Later you will see this will be useful because we'll be using Cinema 4D renderer here. And this renderer will not allow us to apply glow to the layers, and we'll want to apply glow to the texts. Okay, let's start creating another scene. So right click, create a new solid, make the color of that solid black, click OK. I will call it scene 2 background. Set the start of this layer here, put this layer below the camera, and check this box to make it 3D. Right now, to create the particles flying in the background, we'll search the effect Particles World. Okay, one thing to adjust, because you can see after applying this effect, the black screen is not visible. But what we can just do is cut everything at this moment. So cut all of these layers, except for the original one, in this moment, and delete the rest. Now the background is automatically set to black. Okay, now go to the FX panel on this layer that we applied the particles world to, and we'll be changing options here. So first of all, increase the longevity. We want that really long. Go to producer, and now actually first go to physics and set the gravity to -0.3. This way the particles will be flying up. Change the animation to twirly. Go to particle, and particle type, change it to quad polygon. You can change it either to quad polygon or to tri-polygon. Tri-polygon creates triangles and quad polygon creates squares, or like something like this, rectangles. Go to producer right now and change the Y position to put it lower, like that. Let's see how it looks right now. So it's flying up. I would say it's too fast. And also at the start, you can see that the particles do not cover the whole screen. So let's go to the moment when the particles already fill the whole screen. And let's put the start of this layer here and move it to this point. Now you can see even at the start we have the particles there. We'll decrease the birth rate a little to 1.5. Increase the Z radius. Yeah, like that. Also maybe Y radius. Yeah, this is pretty good. Let's see. Okay, this is good. Go to physics and set the gravity to minus 0.15 actually. And set the birth rate to 1 actually, because there are too many of these particles. Okay, this is pretty good. Let's now set the start of it again here and put it at this point. Okay, I would say it's pretty good. Right now go to particle, change the birth color to white and also change the depth color to white and change the depth size to 0.5. So they are bigger at the top, and change the birth size to 0.15. So they are smaller at the bottom. Okay, pretty good, but I would say it's still a little too fast, or maybe they are twirling too much. So go to physics and change the animation to explosive maybe. You can play with all of these options. No, explosive is not that good. Maybe I will try out different options and I will tell you which is the best. Okay, so I think cone axis is pretty good. Yeah, but also I will decrease the gravity to minus 0.1. Let's see. Yeah, this is pretty good. Maybe decrease the birth rate to 0.7. So there are a little less of these particles. Yeah, now it's perfect. I would say it's really good. So we can create another dollar. So go to assets, imports, images, and dollar, import it again. Put it above the particles that we just created and set the start of it here. Now we have the second dollar that will be bending. But first apply an effect tint to this dollar. And now to bend the dollar, what we have to do is change the renderer here from classic 3D to cinema 4D. And this might take a while. Okay, now put this dollar in 3D by checking this box. Go to the drop down here, go to geometry options. And here you can change the curvature and let's set it to minus 80. Yeah, this way it's bending just how we want it to bend, so towards the viewer. But change the segments to something like 20 even. Basically, I can increase the quality and show you what the segments do. If you set it to only 2, this will mean that it's only bending in one place. Basically, there are only 2 sides. You know, if you take paper and you only bend it one time, then this is what the segments 2 is causing. And if you go 20, it means that there are 20 points when it's bending. Okay, now we can just see in the original video how this animation looks. So at the start, you can see that the dollar is zooming. And then it's just moving to the right and transitioning to the next screen. So let's first keyframe the moment when the first letters from the next screen start appearing. So it's right there, I would say, Shift+4. And then let's move to the moment when the next screen is fully visible. So its opacity is at 100%. So it's here. So keyframe that, Shift+5. Okay, unsolo this layer and right now we'll start animating our dollar. So open the position, the rotation, the scale and keyframe all of that here. Move to the second keyframe that we created. Go to this one, keyframe it again. And at the start, first, let's say 10 frames, no, less. First 6 frames or something like this. This is the time when only the zooming happens. So keyframe only the position there. Also we'll make it closer to the viewer at the start. So decrease the Z rotation at the start. We should be starting kind of from this position. Then at this keyframe that we just created, we want it really close to the viewer so that the edges are not visible, like that. And then at this moment, we want to basically copy the Z position from there. We can actually copy this keyframe and paste it here. Now it's close up to the viewer. And in order to keep this bend look of the dollar, but also move it to the left, because as you can see, if we move it right now to the left, it doesn't really look like in the original video. We should be looking at this one here, like it's looking straight at us, and right now it's bended, it's skewed. So in order to change that, first of all, we will move it to the left. But second thing is that we'll change the Y rotation to something like 26 maybe. Also now we can move the position a little to the right. And let's see how it looks. Okay, this is the look. So this is pretty good. Now we have to smooth these keyframes. So select the position keyframes and click F9. click right there to go to graph editor, and we'll create an is in animation on the first animation. So select this set of keyframes and move the handle to the left like that. And right now also drag the handle from the ground, the right handle and also the left handle. And this way the animation is not stopping completely at this point, but it's continuing. This is how it looks. Okay, I think we can try making this first zoom even faster. So move this handle to the left. The problem is it's almost not visible. So maybe we can make this animation longer a little like that. Okay, I think what we could do is at this keyframe put it even closer to the viewer. And then here we can actually don't change the position. So copy the keyframe from there again and paste it on the second keyframe. And if we increase the Z position to -777 and right there also, move it to the left like that on this keyframe, I would say. Okay, this move should be faster a little. Okay, this is how it looks right now. So it's zooming and then to the left. The easing is bad, but I want to show you the values because I actually got lost a little on how to create that. So these are the values on the third keyframe. These are the values after the zooming, and these are the values at the start. But the problem is that we have to select these keyframes, go here, and we created is in right there, but we actually want to create an is out. So first of all, also this keyframe is not on the ground, so I'll put it on the ground. And to create an is out, we want most of the animation to happen at the end. So we want this hill to be kinda there. So let's move this keyframe like that. And then this keyframe like that. And let's see right now. It's good, but we also have to match the easing of that to the Y rotation. So select these two keyframes, click F9, and actually this dollar bill shouldn't start rotating the Y rotation up until this moment, so up until it's zoomed. So let's move this keyframe to this moment. And now we can select these two keyframes and copy the easing from them by using a free plugin that is called EaseCopy. I have it here. This plugin is completely free and you will have the link to that in the description. I really recommend that. It's probably one of the most useful plugins. So select these two keyframes that you want to copy from, click copy, select the two keyframes where you want to paste it and click paste. And right now we applied the same easing that was here to these keyframes. Let's see. I think it looks pretty good, but let's see in the original to compare. Okay, I think in the original it's even more eased in. That's the first thing. I mean, eased out. And the second thing is that it's staying in this position a little longer. So let's see. It's not instantly moving to the left like that. So select the position keyframes and ease out it even more. So like that, and even here like that. And now also copy this keyframe easing to these keyframes. At this second keyframe, we can actually also put it a little away from the viewer, like that. The value here is -693, and we'll copy this value here, -693. Okay, and I think at this moment we can actually even increase the rotation more. Yeah, I think it's good. So now we can start creating the next scene. So what is happening here is that there are these random letters basically, and they start appearing here where we marked it with the number 4, and they are changing kinda every 2 frames. Also the whole screen is kinda bended, and there is vignette applied and also the dots overlay applied. So let's go at the start. We can also select these 2 layers that create the second scene and cut them here and delete the rest, because from this point, as we know, as you can see in the original video, we'll only see the next screen. So let's start basically creating the next scene. Okay, so right click, create a new solid. The solid should be black, so it's good. Put it below the camera, set the start of it to this point, and we don't have to put it in 3D because the next scene is basically in 2D and we don't want to make this animation harder. This is the black screen and now we'll need the dots. So go to assets, to textures, and right there you can find dot grid black. Put it above this layer, above the black background layer, set the start of it here. Now apply an effect tint to that and change map black 2 to white. This way you can see we have white dots. Maybe on the quality here it's not visible, but if I set it to full, these are dots. Okay, and what else do we want there? We want the screen to be bent, like we want the middle to be closer to the viewer, and also we want the vignette. So in order to do that, we'll create a new adjustment layer, put the start of it here, and apply first the effect bulge, increase the value, the horizontal radius and the vertical radius, and you can just really play with that to your liking to get the bend that you want. So I think this is pretty good. And you can see in the original video also the dots are not visible in the corners. So not only the vignette effect, but also the dots are not visible there. And also our dots are a little too big. So we can decrease the scale of that. Let's set it to 45. And now they are very small. Maybe even to 55, a little bigger. Okay, so what we can do to hide these dots in the corners, we can right click here, create a new solid. It should be black. Let's call it vignette. Let's put it below the camera. And we call it vignette because this will be essentially a vignette effect that will cover the dots. Make sure to put it above the dots. Make sure that you have ellipse selected right there and double click on that. And right now I have no idea why this black part is bigger than the mask. But what we can do is go to mask and decrease the mask expansion like that. And also adjust the mask a little. So just make it smaller like that. Now right there next to the mask you have inverted. Select that. And when you select this layer and click F, you will open mask feather and increase the mask feather on that. I would say 150 might be good. Yeah, now basically we got two things in one. So we created the vignette effect and we also got rid of the dots in the corners. So now we can start creating the random letters basically. And the good thing is that if you put these random letters below the adjustment layer, then they will also be banded. So create a new text and just type whatever here. Really, it will be random. Put the start of it here and put it below the adjustment layer. Now go 2 frames later, cut it in this moment. 2 frames later, cut it again. 2 frames later, cut it again. Let's see in the original video how much this scene takes. So right there we can see the next scene. So the next scene is basically this guy with a cigar, I think. At least we'll have a guy with cigar. Starts appearing. So it's here. Let's mark it. Shift+7. And then go to the moment when it's fully on the screen. So the letters are not visible anymore. And it's here. Shift+8. Okay. So up until this moment, the 8 mark here will make these letters. So go 2 frames later, cut it right there. 2 frames later, cut it right there. And here, and cut it and delete the rest. Now unsolo the original layer. Put the anchor point of this text layer in the middle of this layer. So a shortcut Ctrl Alt and Home, and put it in the middle by using Align panel right there. Align and align it so that it's in the middle. Now increase the scale of that. And now here we'll also change the font. So go to Properties and change the font to Europe Grotesque SH Medium Italic, I would say. And now set the scale to maybe even 400. I think 360 might be good. Now we can actually make this layer longer and just start cutting this layer instead of these layers that we created, because this layer is already in the right place. And with all of these, we'll have to put them in the middle and then change the font. So select all of them and delete them. And again, go 2 frames later, cut it here. Whoa, sorry. Go 2 frames later, cut it here. 2 frames later, cut it again, like that. Now make them visible. And now we just have to change the text there. So right there, again, put something random here. He has like a bracket somewhere there, so I'll put a bracket and then numbers. Okay, again, something random here. This time we'll put only numbers there. Again, and last time. Okay, but now what we have to do is change this transition right there, because it's basically instantly on this screen. And we will just do that by animating the opacity. So animate the opacity on the first text layer right there. And then here at this moment, because here it will be fully visible. So at this keyframe, put it at 0. And this is how it will be entering the screen. Now basically do the same on the dots and the vignette layer. So click T on them, open the opacity, keyframe it here. Go to the second set of keyframes, keyframe it here. Here it's already at 100%, so it's good. And right there it should be at 0. Okay, one more thing is this black background. So also set the opacity on this one. Basically the same at the start, put it at 0. And this is how this transition looks right now. Okay, one thing that we can also do, because you can see between this frame and this frame, because of the bulge adjustment layer, the $sign is getting increased. The size of that is getting increased. And in order to prevent that, we'll keyframe the bulge height on the bulge adjustment layer. So keyframe the bulge height here, keyframe the bulge height right there at the second set of keyframes of the opacity. So I'm clicking U to show me the keyframe there, keyframe it here. And at this point it should be at 1, but at the start put it at 0. This way it's just smoothly getting bigger. And it actually looks good. Okay, one thing to adjust that I see is that we have to make it so that the dots are not visible in the corners, because right now something is messed. Okay, so I see what is the problem. So I decrease the feather, but I should put it at 150 again. And the problem is that I accidentally decreased the opacity to 50 here, so set it to 100, of course. So this is how it looks. So I think it's pretty good, but we can actually go to the dollar layer and we can select the position keyframes, go to graph editor and make it a little less is out. So like that. Yeah, I think it's just a small detail, but it will look better. Okay, and one more thing is that we should also apply this opacity keyframes on the second text here, because it will also apply to this text. But important thing is to copy these two keyframes, then set the playhead on the first keyframe there, select this layer and paste it here. So this way the same opacity keyframes in the same places are applied to this text. I'm thinking if I like the vignette animation, maybe let's set the second bulge keyframe even faster. So this will just give us an effect of the dollar getting closer to the viewer, like right before transition, and I think this will look good. You see, like that. But I think what we can also do is actually on the second set of keyframes on the dollar, we can make it even more rotated and we can move it even more to the left. Let's see right now. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It gives us this feeling of this dollar getting closer. So now we can just create the next scene. So let's see in the original video. The next scene starts appearing there and is fully on the screen here. I mean, it is not fully in the place where it should be. Fully in the place where it should be, it's actually in this moment. So let's keyframe this moment, Shift+9. So here it should start appearing. Here the previous screen is not visible, so we can cut it here and delete the rest. And here it is fully in the right place. Okay, so let's start creating. So right click here, create a new solid. Let's call it scene 4. Click OK. Put it below the camera but above the adjustment layer, so above the previous scene. And also cut this adjustment layer in this moment. Okay, and now go to the asset folder, go to imports, go to PSD, and here you can find city. So import the city and also man smoking a cigar. Put him above the city, of course. And at this point they should start appearing. So put them here. Also put them in 3D, all of these 3 layers. So now we'll be using 2 views. Right there, change the view to 2 views. Okay, and put this city closer to the viewer. Put the man closer to the viewer. And put this whole scene closer to the viewer, like that. Okay, and for now we can disable 2 views. We can just go to 1 view. And we can start placing every image here in the right position. So I would say increase the scale of the city. Put it closer to the viewer. The guy, also put him closer to the viewer. Now put this city lower. Increase the scale of that. Put the guy more here and also decrease the scale of him like that and put him there. Now let's move the city a little like that. And this will kind of be our final view. I mean the view that will show right there on the 9 mark. I mean maybe also decrease the scale of the city. Put it a little higher. Maybe put it closer to the viewer. Okay, something like this is pretty good, I would say. Like that. Also put the man a little here. Okay, so right now select the city layer and apply effect tint to that. This way it's black and white, just how we want it. Right now apply the same effect to the man smoking cigar. Parent link the man layer to the city layer. Now at the city layer open the position and the rotation. Keyframe everything here. Go to this mark, so the final position of this whole scene. Keyframe it here. And this is the final position, and at the start we'll put it kinda, first of all, more to the right. Second of all, it should be rotated not like that, but on the Z axis, I would say like that. Put it a little lower. Okay, rotation is too big. -7 maybe, or -9. Put it to the left. We don't want the viewer to see the rough edges, so put it like that, then also a little lower, and let's see. Okay, for now it looks like that, but in this moment we see the rough edges right there. So at the start put it even lower, and also at the start put it further away from the viewer. Okay, also adjust the Z position of the background, put it away, and increase the scale. Okay, and at the end we could actually make the Z rotation just a little on the positive values, so I would say 2. Okay, and adjust the position at the start, put it to the left, put it lower. This is just a lot of adjusting, a lot of checking, if you can see the rough edges there. So put it lower, even lower. Okay, here I think it's pretty good right now. We can barely see edges, I mean only in this moment, and it's almost not visible, so we don't have to adjust that. And right now we'll just keyframe the opacity on all of these layers. So select all of them, click T, keyframe the opacity there, go to this keyframe, this mark that we created, keyframe it again. At the first set of keyframe, set everything to 0. Maybe make the opacity animation on the black background a little longer, like that, so we can see these letters for a little longer. If we of course extend them, so maybe extend them like that. Then also we'll have to create another random letters there. Everything there, make it longer, put another set of random letters there. And we can also actually start decreasing the opacity of this background. So this transition will look more natural if the opacity is keyframed on both scenes. So go here, open the opacity, keyframe it right there. Also go to the dots, also go to this black background, we can do that. And open opacity on the last text layer, keyframe it here. Now actually put it one keyframe earlier. Then the last keyframes, set it to 0 right there. So also we can copy this opacity keyframes and paste them here. Let's see. Yeah, I would say now it looks more natural, but we also have to select the keyframes on the man and the city. Now actually it can be only on the city. It should be even more eased in, even a steeper is in. So select this keyframe and move it to the left. We can copy the keyframes from there and paste them here. But I think still it's too slow. Okay, this is how it looks right now. So it is pretty good, but you can see this last scene is too slow. So go to the city, click U to show you the keyframes that you're using. Select the position keyframes, click F9, go to graph editor, and we have to create an ease in animation there. Okay, and now we have to copy this easing from these keyframes using the ease copy plugin. And paste it also on the rotation, Z rotation keyframes, paste it there. Yep, so everything there is happening really fast right now. Okay, this is good. So now we can polish this scene. So first of all, you can see in the original video, I think this whole scene, except for this businessman, this man with the cigar, has dots on it, dots overlay. So we can go to the assets, textures, and import dot grid black. Put it above the city but below the man. Cut it here, delete the rest, the previous part. Okay, do not put it in 3D. Go to toggle switches mode right there and set the track matte of that to the city, but make the city layer visible again. And now the dots are only visible on the city layer. Now with this dot selected, search for effect tint, apply tint to that and map black to white. Now we have white dots on the buildings, but also we want to decrease the opacity of the dots. So click T on that and decrease it to really low value, like 10, maybe 15. So this is the first thing. The next thing is to duplicate this man, and on this duplicated one, search for effect fill, change the color to white, put it below the first man layer, and you can change the order of the layers by using a shortcut Control Alt and up arrow or down arrow. And now change the position of the white man layer, put it to the left. Okay, but also put it closer to the viewer. Okay, so now we have this white layer, put it below the original man layer, put it also a little to the left, not the original one, but the white one, put it to the left. And now change the Z position on this one. Now actually change the Z position on the original man, like that. And now on this one we can adjust it so that it looks kind of like that and a little higher. Okay, I would say this looks pretty good. Maybe a little to the right. And the great thing is this duplicated white layer also follows the city layer. Okay, so at the end we'll also polish more things here, but for now we'll create the next scene. So this will be just the scene from the movie, Limitless. So this mark right there is when the next transition starts to happen. So everything is coming closer to the screen. But let's see when the next scene starts appearing. Here we can mark this point as a widescreen, Shift plus 5. And then here the next scene starts appearing, so Shift plus 6. And it's fully on the screen. Right there we cannot see the widescreen, so Shift plus 8. So we have all of the marks right there. Okay, I will decrease the opacity on the dots. to even 7, I would say. We want them really barely visible. Okay, so one thing that we have to change in this composition is that we should make the city darker. So search for effect hue and saturation and decrease the lightness on that to -50, I think. Okay, now it's much darker. This is what we wanted. And right now copy the city layer and search for effect extract. Apply it here and move this point to the left. This way on this duplicated layer we'll only have the brightest values, like that. And also adjust the position to put it a little closer to the viewer, like that, because otherwise we don't see the previous city layer. Okay, one thing, put this layer above the dots. If we solo that, you can see that it only includes the brightest parts of the city. And on this brightest parts, we want to apply an effect deep glow. If you don't have the deep glow, you can just use normal glow from After Effects. And we do that because we want the brightest parts of the city to be glowing. And I think I will also change the extract level a little, so it's showing even less. Like that is good. Okay, and right now we'll copy the man again. So the layer that is up front there, copy it and apply again the extract effect. And here we'll also only pick the brightest parts. Of course, put it just at -34.2. It's 34.2. And now we can apply deep glow to that. Let's set the quality to full to see how it looks. Let's hide this layer. Okay, it's pretty good. This way we highlighted the lightest parts of this man, but set the radius here to 250 and set the exposure to 0.2. This should be pretty subtle. But now we'll apply deep glow to the white layer behind this man. So apply deep glow to that. And this way he's glowing, but of course decrease the radius to 300 and decrease the exposure to 0.4, maybe 0.3 even. And now it just looks much better. Okay, so from this point to this point, this whole man and the city should be zooming, should be coming closer to the viewer. So as you can see, I've set the view to 2 views by changing it here. Okay, let's adjust the whole layout. And we can do this either by zooming in everything that you see there, so all of the man layers and all of the city layers, or we can do that simply by animating the camera. So go to the null object controlling the camera, open P on that, keyframe the position, go to this moment, keyframe the position again, and just move the camera closer to the viewer. You can really see what is happening on this view. So I think this might be pretty good. Let's see. Okay, pretty good, but we want the camera to be even closer to the viewer. I would say really zoomed in, and also I will put it a little higher, maybe like that. Okay, yeah, let's see in the original video. And at this moment in the original video we actually have a white screen. So select all of the layers creating the scene that we just created and cut the rest of that. Let's set it back to one view. Okay, and unsolo the original layer. And at this moment we need a new solid. Right click here, create a new solid, and it should be white. Okay, put it below the camera. Set the start of it to this point, to this moment. And what we can also do is apply another glitch transition there. So go to project and in assets, in textures, you have glitch overlay. Apply it here and put it at the very top. Let's now go and find some good glitch transition. Maybe this one with the lines. So it's starting here. Put the start of this here. And it's finished right there, but we can finish it faster if you want. As you remember, we don't have to put transitions below the camera because we don't need them in 3D. So right now open the rotation on that by clicking R and set it to 90 degrees, and now increase the scale like that. Go to toggle switches modes and set the mode to screen, and also decrease the opacity, set it to the same opacity that we set to this glitch transition. So click on that, open T, so opacity, and you can see it's on 30. So click on that, click T and set it to 30. We can start creating this glitch transition when we have this zooming in effect on the camera. So somewhere here, I would say. And up until this point, so the last mark that we made, the white screen is still visible to some degree. So let's set the end of that here. And also the transition here, the glitch transition here. Okay, and from this mark, we'll start decreasing the opacity on the white screen because we'll start showing them the part from the movie, showing the viewers that. So go to assets and go to limitless. And this is the part of the movie that we'll be showing. Put it below the white solid layer and set the end of this clip to the end of the whole original video, so right there. Okay, and keyframe the opacity on the white solid, so click T here, keyframe the opacity there, go to this mark, keyframe the opacity here and set it to 0 on this mark. Let's see right now. And the last thing is to start zooming in the movie part and just open the scale on that and then open the position on that, keyframe it here and keyframe it at the very end. And here set the scale maybe to 120 and the position a little lower like that. Okay, this one is pretty good, but I think we'll have to cut the glitch transition there because we don't really want it visible on the movie part. But what we'll do is we'll also animate the saturation on the movie part. So select this layer and search for hue and saturation, keyframe the channel range here, click U to show you the used keyframes and go somewhere here, keyframe the channel range again, and at the start decrease the saturation to -100. And now you can see during the transition at the start this man is gray. Maybe even put this keyframe later so you can see he is gray for more time. And now we can just really move to the final adjustments. So first of all we want to put glow on the text, the first and on the internet. Select it and search for deep glow. Once again, if you don't have the deep glow you can just use normal glow from After Effects. But just know that it will look a little worse because deep glow is much better than the normal glow. Let's set the radius to 300 and exposure to 0.2. So it's pretty subtle. Copy this glow and paste it on the internet part. Okay. Now a really important thing is to put the deep glow on the particles there. So right there and put the deep glow here. Change the radius to maybe 300 and the exposure to 0.6. They should be glowing pretty well like that. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Now we'll put deep glow on all of these text layers. So copy the deep glow from the first text layers and paste it here, then paste it here. Basically paste it on all of these text layers. Okay, good. Here in the scene we already applied the glow that we wanted. And then at the end, let's see, here we have a white screen. So let's see the whole video again. As you can see, my computer will not let me just play it, so I will be just dragging the playhead to show you how it looks. At the start we have a light leak. We have the first animation, the first scene with the text. Transition to the next scene with the dollar. Transition to the next scene with the texts, random texts. The next one, and then the last one. At the end, click Enter, right click here and select Trim Comp to Work Area. Actually go one frame before that, click N here, right click here, Trim Comp to Work Area. Now it's perfect. And as you can see, this is how the timeline of that looks. It's probably pretty complicated for a beginner. This type of edits are not really easy, but I think if you follow the tutorial, you can make it. Okay, one last thing to do is to create a new adjustment layer at the very top, and to this adjustment layer apply an effect curves and make the brights a little brighter and the shadows a little darker like that. Like it just makes the color richer. You can see right there, you can also see it without it. It just doesn't look that good, and with this it looks better. Okay, and one last thing that I will apply is also on the same adjustment layer I will apply exposure. So search for exposure and set the exposure to 0.2 and the gamma correction to 0.7. This way again it just makes the color richer. With this it looks like that, and without it, yeah, again the same, it just makes the blacks darker and the whites whiter. There is one last adjustment that I want to show you. It will just add a little bit of sauce at the end. So to do that, select everything that is here. Maybe except for the original video, we can delete this. Select everything, right click on that and pre-compose it. We can call it everything. Okay. Right click here, create a new camera. Okay. Now go to toggle switches modes and check this box here to make the whole composition 3D. Let's now go to two views. And you can see this camera is now controlling the whole composition, everything that we created so far. And we want to add a little bit of camera shake. So throughout the whole video, we want the camera to be shaking a little. And to do that, alt click on orientation and type wiggle, open parenthesis, 3,0.2. Okay, now we can see when we select this composition, it's shaking a little. But for example, right there, you can see that we have a dark edge. And to prevent that, we can make this composition a little bigger, just like 102 on scale. And this will not affect the experience of watching the video. The whole composition is just like 2% bigger, but we don't have the dark edges. Okay, after that, the very last thing I promise is to go to everything composition and enable motion blur on most of the layers, I think. So to enable motion blur, you have to check this box here. And let's go from the start. So we want the motion blur on the dollar. So right there, check this box to enable motion blur. Basically, we can enable motion blur on everything, I think. We don't have to enable motion blur on the things that are above the camera and the null object. And we do that at the very end because this will just really make the whole composition very laggy. So that was the last thing and the animation is finished. And if you want to know how to create more advanced edits in different styles, then join the Leverage Editor program and community, where soon, exactly on 28th of April, we'll be hosting a workshop going over how to build an editing agency. The workshop will consist of 3 live sessions. The link to join is in the description. Thank you guys for watching this video and see you in the next one.